is NBC Palm Springs.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Olivia Sandusky, and welcome to the early edition of NBC Palm Springs. Topping our news this afternoon, the deputy-involved shooting in La Quinta that left one man dead. And the people who live and work in the heart of La Quinta are shocked. Today, we're learning more about this incident and how a city staffer took heroic measures to alert other employees and police of an active shooter. Our Nico Payne spoke to Mayor Linda Evans and joins us now live in La Quinta with more. Nico.
Yes, Olivia, it was a dramatic scene here at City Hall yesterday, and we're learning few new details about the incident, along with what one city staffer did to help protect people.
This was an isolated incident, is what they've determined thus far, and the target or focus was not City Hall.
Sheriffs and police rushed to City Hall in La Quinta Thursday afternoon after they received a call reporting a man with a gun in the courtyard.
We did not hear any shootings. We didn't hear nothing. We just saw a bunch of cop cars rushing over here. Some cops going that way, some cops going towards City Hall.
When officers arrived on scene, the suspect aimed his weapon in their direction.
At that time, the deputy-involved shooting occurred. The suspect was hit by the gunfire.
Life-saving efforts were performed, but the suspect later died at the hospital. And now we're learning what took place moments before the shooting and what one person did that probably saved lives.
We had one of our employees that was returning from lunch and had parked his car in the north parking lot, which is right along Calle Tampico, and proceeded to walk towards one of the entrances to City Hall and had heard a voice that was catching his attention. And when he turned around, he saw the gunman with what looked like a rifle in his hand.
That employee quickly noticed what was happening and calmly alerted staff.
He kind of stopped and looked at him, and then he continued his stride towards the entrance of City Hall and keyed himself in and quickly locked the door behind him and alerted the two officers that happened to be at the substation right there at City Hall, and then immediately activated through employee communications a preparation for the active shooter protocols.
And we do want to mention that a rifle was recovered here at the scene, and Mayor Evans is commending the bravery of this employee, saying this incident could have been much worse. She also mentioned that City Hall staff has received active shooter training, and yesterday that training made a difference. Reporting live, I'm Nico Payne, NBC Palm Springs.
All right, thank you, Nico. The search is over for a man accused of kidnapping his girlfriend. Law enforcement arrested Manuel Villedes near Coachella last night on suspicion of kidnapping and terroristic threats. Villedes is being held without bail. But there's another man police are still trying to find today for abusing a dog. It's caught on a home security Ring camera. And before we show it, a warning because the video may be difficult for some to watch. Take a look here. The video shows a man running after a dog near a driveway of a home in Los Cabos in Coachella. The man drags the dog by the collar. The dog's front legs lifted into the air, and that man then kicks the dog. He punches it. The homeowner turned this Ring camera over to law officers, and they're asking for your help in finding him. If you have any information, please call the Riverside County Sheriff's Department. We'll take a look at the COVID-19 numbers for Riverside County and the entire Coachella Valley. 295 new cases were reported countywide, 52 of those here in the valley, 10 new deaths in the county, one of those in our valley.
Coronavirus coverage brought to you by East Valley COVID-19 testing site, serving residents of eastern Coachella Valley.
A memorial today for Forest Service firefighter Charles Edward Morton, who died while battling the El Dorado fire. Morton's family was flanked by saluting first responders as they arrived for the memorial. The 39-year-old firefighter was killed September 17th. Morton spent 14 years with the Forest Service, starting in 2006 with the Truckee Interagency Hotshots on the Tahoe National Forest. The El Dorado fire has burned nearly 23,000 acres. It's 81% contained. Tony Shin has more.
Fellow heroes preparing to say goodbye to Charles Edward Morton, or Charlie as he was best known. Walking with family members, fiancée Monica Tapia carries Charlie's urn into Rock Church in San Bernardino. Charlie, a 39-year-old crew boss for the elite firefighting team Big Bear Hotshots, tragically died last week while fighting the El Dorado fire.
Charlie was a real human being. He was up front and he had a very big heart.
Charlie had been a firefighter for 18 years, spending most of his honorable career with the U.S. Forest Service.
At the Forest Service, we are dedicated to caring for the land and serving people. And Charlie showed us what service truly means.
During a heartfelt speech, Charlie's fiancée talked about the first time they communicated via cell phone after a mutual friend connected them.
And my phone goes off and it's a number I don't recognize. I open it up and it says, "Hello, I heard you were the woman of my dreams."
Monica also talked about their everlasting love for each other and Charlie's love for the men and women who risked their lives fighting on the fire lines.
No mountain, no accident, no wildfire can take away the love that Charlie gave me. He loved being a hotshot firefighter. He loved being out in the wilderness. He loved his mountain.
Big Bear 1 Charlie, San Bernardino. This is a last call for fallen firefighter Charles.
The funeral for firefighter Morton comes as we learn more about a missing firefighter in Big Bear. Carlos Alexander Baltazar was reported missing yesterday. California Highway Patrol found his vehicle Sunday on Highway 18 and Delta Avenue. Baltazar is a part of the U.S. Forest Service interagency hotshot crew and was off duty at the time and not in the area of the El Dorado fire. Federal authorities are now investigating one of the biggest wildfires in LA County history. The 113,000-acre Bobcat fire may have been sparked by Southern California Edison's utility equipment. SCE has been blamed for wildfires in the past. Just last November, it agreed to pay $360 million to settle lawsuits over wildfires. A massive wildfire burning in Central California is also making history. Fire officials say the Creek Fire is now the largest single wildfire the state has ever seen. More than 291,000 acres have burned in Fresno and Madera County. Hundreds of homes have been lost. It's still only 34% contained. A brush fire in Coachella burned about 3 acres along State Route 86. The fire was reported yesterday afternoon and was only put out in about 3 hours later. No word on that cause yet. And we're saying goodbye to the end of summer, welcoming in fall for the first weekend. A very warm welcome. We'll send in Taylor Martinez with a look at our forecast.
That's right, Olivia. Definitely a first hot weekend of fall. Temps right now 104 in Palm Springs, very dry out there. That's going to continue into tomorrow. An overview of our day today, as I said, much hotter than normal. We're usually seeing temperatures of around 97 at this time. Today we saw a high of 104, but not too close to our record high of 114. Looking forward to our next 3 days. Tomorrow is going to actually be the nicest of the week to come. 103 tomorrow, lows of 73. 104 on Sunday with lows of 76. We're really heating up into next week. 104 on Monday with lows of 76. I'll tell you about the next 7 days in my full forecast coming up. Now to a You Ask, We Investigate. Castelli's, the Italian restaurant in Palm Desert, has been a favorite of locals and celebrities for years, but the owner of the restaurant says the city has not kept their promises to fix the alley behind his business. Our Kitty Alvarado looked into this and joins us in studio with the details. Kitty.
And that's right. While Castelli's is a beloved institution, that alley/road is notorious for being dark, narrow, and dusty. The owner has worked hard to beautify and grow his business and says the city has not done their part to improve what they promised. Michael Castelli takes great pride in his restaurant that bears his last name. It's been a Palm Desert institution for over 3 decades.
Kurt Russell, Sam Elliott. Over here we have Joe Pesci.
Locals and celebrities love it.
Everybody and anybody that comes in this desert comes to this restaurant.
Over the years, he's worked hard to transform the restaurant into something the city can be proud of.
In 1993, the city gave me a permit to go further out on the dirt and do my kitchen.
He says each time he's made improvements,
this is my dining room.
The city makes him go above and beyond, like in 2003.
Before I could get the permit, I had to buy a lot across the alleyway for parking, which I did.
The reason the city gave,
because we are going to beautify and put a road back here. Entrances will be in the back on this nice roadway which connects through the city.
He's kept his end of the bargain, but he's still waiting on the city.
It's been 33 years. I've had broken promises, false hopes. Every time I added on to my building, the city told me to architecturally make it beautiful because you were going to beautify the alley. That was in 1988.
He says it's not just a dusty eyesore. The tight space makes it dangerous.
I'm begging the city to address this.
Finally, during this week's city council meeting, his voice was heard.
Yes, Mr. Costelli.
Okay, great. I just want to say thank you to the mayor for getting this on the agenda today.
And he hopes that after 33 years of him doing right by the city and the countless people who love his restaurant, the city does right by him.
I feel there's a glimmer of hope. Of all the broken promises, I see a little light that the city is going to do something this time.
And we did reach out to the city of Palm Desert. They tell me it will be on the next city council meeting, and they will decide what to do with the Alessandro Alley then, and we will stay with this story and keep you posted. I'm Kitty Alvarado.
All right, thank you, Kitty. Now to another You Ask, We Investigate. A viewer reached out to us wanting to know the Starbucks in front of Albertsons on Monterey is closed. The viewer says a sign on the door reads closed due to unforeseen circumstances. No specifics on what that means. We found out from Starbucks that the store is temporarily closed and scheduled to reopen on October 1st. The company says it's continuing to serve the Rancho Mirage community at its Highway 111 and Magnesia Falls location. Remember, if you have a story idea you'd like us to look into, you can email us at news@nbcpalmsprings.com. A couple of big events built around the Salton Sea are happening tomorrow. There's a drive-in screening of a documentary called Miracle in the Desert, The Rise and Fall of the Salton Sea. It's playing at the Palm Springs Cultural Center and looks at how the Salton Sea went from being a destination point for family getaways to a polluted body of water with communities along its shores barely keeping it together. You can find more information by going to miracleinthedesert.com. Now, also on Saturday, a group of Valley teenagers will kayak across the Salton Sea starting at 7 in the morning. They're trying to draw attention to what the Salton Sea could be once again. A place for recreation, kayaking, and swimming, maybe even some fishing. The Living Desert Zoo and Gardens is getting ready to get back to normal hours of operation. Beginning Thursday, October 1st, the Living Desert will open at 8 a.m. for both members and non-members, with full zoo amenities opening at 9. The zoo will remain open until 5 p.m. with a last admission at 4. Also, the Living Desert's 3 nature preserve hiking trails also will reopen at 8 a.m. That all starting on October 1st. And we will be there with those 3 students as they venture out to the reimagined Salton Sea, and still ahead, honoring the woman who helped change the lives of generations of women, Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And we have some big news coming to La Quinta and the Old Ralph Shopping Center, a new grocery store when it's set to open straight ahead. For the first time since a grand jury ruled no Louisville police officer would be directly charged in Breonna Taylor's death, her family is speaking publicly about the decision as the city braces for another weekend of protests. Jay Gray has the details.
Night and day.
Say her name!
Her name echoes from Louisville across the country. But Breonna Taylor's family and attorneys say it still hasn't been heard by Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron.
Did he present any evidence on Breonna Taylor's behalf?
For the first time since a grand jury decision that no Louisville police officer will be directly charged in Taylor's death, her family is speaking out.
We're standing with you.
Taylor's mother, overcome with emotion, her sister, Breonna's aunt, reading her statement.
I was reassured Wednesday of why I have no faith in the legal system, in the police, in the law that are not made to protect us black and brown people.
As they demand transparency in the case.
Release the transcripts! Release the transcripts!
The attorney for John Mattingly released this video from the scene.
I'm gonna grab his legs. Put him in the trunk. Put him in the trunk.
Just after the Louisville police officer was shot by Taylor's boyfriend during the raid. Now, 191 days later, the city is still locked down, on edge, and concerned about the weekend.
I would expect it to be a larger crowd. We have heard rumors of various folks coming in from out of town for the protest on both sides of the issue.
An issue that, like the protest here, isn't going away. Jay Gray, NBC News, Louisville.
The Illinois teenager charged with fatally shooting 2 people and injuring a third during unrest in Kenosha, Wisconsin last month appears in court. 17-year-old Kyle Rittenhouse appeared this morning for an extradition hearing. Rittenhouse's legal team plans to challenge extradition by writ of habeas corpus, a constitutional right that protects against unlawful and indefinite imprisonment. He would face a mandatory life sentence if convicted of first-degree intentional homicide. Rittenhouse is scheduled back in court on October 9th. The Senate passes a resolution reaffirming its support for a peaceful transition of power. It comes a day after President Trump refused to commit to such a transition next year if he loses in the November election. This resolution passed unanimously. Some House Democrats plan to introduce a bill to set an 18-year term limit for Supreme Court justices, which would end lifetime appointments. The proposal comes as Senate Republicans try to bring in a successor to Ginsburg and preserve a conservative majority for a generation. This is apparently the first term limits for Supreme Court justices that's been proposed as legislation rather than a constitutional amendment. The legislation has no chance of passage in the Republican-led Senate. History is in the making in Washington as Congress honors Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. NBC's Tracy Potts has the latest from the Capitol, where earlier today, lawmakers held a ceremony in her honor.
Just a few steps from where she made history, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg is breaking barriers again, today becoming the first woman to lie in state at the U.S. Capitol. The motorcade carrying her remains arrived for a formal ceremony led by the first female Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi.
It is with profound sorrow and deep sympathy to the Ginsburg family that I have the high honor to welcome Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg to lie in state.
Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden and his wife Jill sitting with the Ginsburg family. A small mix of Democrats and Republicans on the other side, hundreds more visiting throughout the day in socially distanced groups.
All the days of her life, she pursued justice, even in illness.
President Trump paid his respects at the Supreme Court Thursday. As sounds of political discord pierced the solemn moment. The president announced his plans to replace Ginsburg at a Florida rally last night.
On Saturday, I will be announcing my nominee to the United States Supreme Court.
He says he's nominating another woman tomorrow as the High Court's longest-serving female justice is laid to rest. Justice Ginsburg will be laid to rest in a private ceremony at Arlington National Cemetery next week. Tracy Potts, NBC News at the U.S. Capitol.
As you just heard, the president plans to announce his Supreme Court nominee tomorrow. That will take place at 2 o'clock. And we'll head to break here, but first we'll take a live look at our Walter Clark Highway 111 cam. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Taylor Martinez in for Mike Everett today. You can catch him on Sunday. We're taking a live look at our Agua Caliente Casino cam in Rancho Mirage right now. Looks a little hazy out there. That's going to stick around because there's not much happening in wind. We'll talk about that in a moment. Now taking a look at Palm Springs, a nice hot first Friday of fall for us. Getting right to the numbers today, we saw temperatures higher than normal, quite higher than normal. Usually we see temperatures of around 97 at this time. Today we saw a high of 104. And that's kind of going to be the trend throughout the whole weekend and much of next week. Expect hot and dry conditions. I'm not tracking anything on our radar for this weekend, and that's the trend across the Southwest. Just dry and warm conditions. Current temperatures across the Southwest: 104 in Lake Havasu, 100 degrees up in Vegas, 86 out in Bakersfield, some nice 70s along the coast. As for the Coachella Valley, 99 in Desert Hot Springs, 102 in Thousand Palms, 100 in Indio. Coachella is staying away from those triple digits for now. 104 in Palm Desert and Palm Springs. Talking about those winds, not much going on. It is pretty dry out there, as I kept saying. That will continue throughout the night and the weekend. Looking at tomorrow, usually we're seeing temperatures at noon hitting triple digits, but tomorrow we'll have about till 2 before we work our way up to 103, only slightly coming down by 8 p.m. to 90. Highs across the Coachella Valley tomorrow: 96 out in Cabazon, 103 in Palm Springs and Thousand Palms and Indio, 104 in Palm Desert, 95 up in Joshua Tree. As for Sunday, we're heating up a little: 104 in Palm Springs and Thousand Palms and Indio and Palm Desert, 98 in Cabazon, 76 up in Big Bear, 95 in Joshua Tree. Now taking a look at our 7-day forecast brought to you by Comfort Air. 103 Saturday, working our way, 104 on Sunday and Monday, really heating up towards the middle of the week. 105 on Tuesday, 107 Wednesday. Look at that 109 as we head into next weekend. This is fall, people. We'll be right back.
Some great news for La Quinta. The long vacant Ralph's building has a new tenant. Grocery Outlet will take over half of the 41,000 square foot building in the La Quinta Village Shopping Center at Washington and Calle Tampico. Now, the Ralph's closed in 2014. Grocery Outlet is scheduled to open next fall. That chain offers discounted, overstocked, and closeout products from name brand and private label suppliers. Mayor Linda Evans said an announcement of a tenant for the other half of that building should soon follow, though she doesn't know what business is leasing that side. City officials also say a new Starbucks with drive-thru is under construction, so a lot happening out there in La Quinta. Many thought a planned In-N-Out in Rancho Mirage was a no-go, but a draft of an environmental impact report for the planned project has been released on the city's website. Complaints of traffic flow, noise, pollution, and loss in property value are some of the concerns for neighbors. Public comment is being taken until November 6th. Hundreds of Chromebooks will be going into the homes of local students. Frontier Communications donated 500 of the computers to Palm Springs Unified School District. It was a coordinated effort between Frontier and the California Emergency Technology Fund.
Being able to bring together a number of different organizations here locally for the purpose of serving families and children who today need the technology for purposes of learning. It's a good feeling that we're able to provide 500 laptops to the families here of Desert Hot Springs. It's a good day.
These Chromebooks will go to 6th and 7th grade students at Painted Hills Middle School. A new study shows a pet may be the best cure for lockdown loneliness. Researchers in the UK surveyed 6,000 people during the spring and early summer. 90% with a pet said their animal helped them cope emotionally with the lockdown, and 96% said their pet kept them fit and active. However, the study did find that nearly 70% of pet owners worried about their animals during lockdown as well. Welcome back. We're taking a live look now from New York City. That's the Empire State Building, lit up in red, white, and blue for late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She was memorialized today in Washington after lying in state at the U.S. Capitol, the first woman to receive this honor. She'll be buried at Arlington National Cemetery next to her husband in a private ceremony next week. We honor her moment. And obviously, we're bringing you the news early tonight because of tonight's special programming. The Stanley Cup Final, that's coming up next. Pretty exciting, but we'll be back right after that with more NBC Palm Springs primetime news starting around 8 o'clock. So enjoy the game, and we'll see you after that. Or not. What's going on? Oh, I'm like, I think she's, you ready? Yeah, she's a good. Coming up tonight at 11, a man is being praised as a hero after alerting others about an active shooter in La Quinte. Oh, goodness, La Quinte, sorry. Coming up tonight at 11, a man is being praised as a hero after alerting others about an active shooter in La Quinta. Details on his brave actions. And a popular Palm Desert restaurant says the city isn't fulfilling their promises about the dark alley behind their property. We'll have more on that. Plus, Taylor has a look at your weather.
Yeah, definitely a hot first Friday of fall, and that will continue into the weekend. Usually, we're seeing temperatures around 97 at this time. Today, we saw 104.
Coming up tonight at 11, a man is being praised as a hero after alerting others about an active shooter in La Quinta. We'll have those details. And a Palm Desert restaurant says the city isn't fulfilling their promises. We'll have more on that tonight at 11. Good morning. I'm Olivia Sandusky. We're learning more about a shooting incident in La Quinta and how a city staffer took heroic measures to alert other employees and police of that active shooter. Our Nico Payne spoke with the mayor of La Quinta and has more.
This was an isolated incident is what they've determined thus far, and the target or focus was not City Hall.
Sheriffs and police rushed to City Hall in La Quinta Thursday afternoon after they received a call reporting a man with a gun in the courtyard.
We did not hear any shootings. We didn't hear nothing. We just saw a bunch of cop cars rushing over here. Some cops going that way, some cops going towards City Hall.
When officers arrived on scene, the suspect aimed his weapon in their direction.
At that time, the deputy-involved shooting occurred. The suspect was hit
by the gunfire.
Life-saving efforts were performed, but the suspect later died at the hospital. And now we're learning what took place moments before the shooting and what one person did that probably saved lives.
We had one of our employees that was returning from lunch and had parked his car in the north parking lot, which is right along Calle Tampico, and proceeded to walk towards one of the entrances to City Hall and had heard a voice that was catching his attention. And when he turned around, he saw the gunman with what looked like a rifle in his hand.
That employee quickly noticed what was happening and calmly alerted staff.
He kind of stopped and looked at him, and then he continued his stride towards the entrance of City Hall and keyed himself in and quickly locked the door behind him and alerted the two officers that happened to be at the substation right there at City Hall, and then immediately activated through employee communications in preparation for the active shooter protocols.
And we'll now check in with Taylor Martinez with a look at your first weekend of fall.
Yeah, good Saturday morning. Definitely a hot